We are going to continue our study of Chapter 9 today with Lesson 3, Alexander the Great. The big idea today is Alexander the Great built a huge empire and helped spread Greek culture into Egypt and Asia. Main ideas: Macedonia conquered Greece in the 300s BCE. Alexander the Great built an empire that united much of Europe, Asia, and Egypt. And the Hellenistic kingdoms formed from Alexander's empire blended Greek and other cultures. Come back and watch this video. It's a song. So Macedonia conquered Greece in the 300s BC. So Philip II, he became king of Macedonia, and he targeted Greece for an invasion. Remember, they're bickering and fighting amongst themselves. He beat Athens, and when that happened, the rest of Greece agreed to make him their leader. So when they saw that he beat Athens, they were like, oh, okay, it's okay, we don't have to fight. So now, Philip II has control of Greece. Philip, of course, as you can tell here, is just a brilliant military leader. He fought and arranged his soldiers in a phalanx. So, as a phalanx with spears that were longer than the Greeks. So remember, those that have the more advanced weapons normally win. He also had a cavalry and archers that supported this phalanx. And I'm going to show you a picture of this in a second. You'll see. Well, when Philip II died, his throne and his plans were passed on to his son, Alexander, who is going to become Alexander the Great. Right, so this is an example of how they fought under Philip II. And of course, again, he's from Macedonia. And this is a phalanx. So you can see they're in rows. And as this first row lowers theirs, it comes out to here. And then the second row to here. And then the third row here, and so on and so forth. And they are constantly, each row is letting their spears go down. So this would be a phalanx organization way of fighting, basically. And they are 16 feet long spears. And this is how they marched into battle. All right, so when Alexander took over, remember he's Philip II's son, he began his rule by ending a revolt in Thebes. And this set an example to all the other Greeks: don't rebel against Alexander. He's not going to put up with it. He then set out to build an empire, which is why he earned the name Alexander the Great. He conquered Egypt, was crowned Pharaoh of Egypt, and didn't even have to fight. So when they heard he was coming, they're like, here, it's not even worth it. And then he defeated Persia and became the ruler of the Persian Empire. Alexander then wanted to go on and invade India, but his troops were simply too exhausted, and they just refused to go. They're like, no, we're going back home. We're done fighting. You've got enough. So they began to march home, but he died from sickness before he ever made it back to Greece. Alexander's empire was the largest empire the world had ever seen at that point in history. He was a strong admirer of Greek culture, and he worked to spread Greek culture throughout his empire. He encouraged Greek settlers to move to the new cities that he had conquered. That way, the settlers passed along the language and the culture of Greece. And he also encouraged the people that he conquered, he wanted them to keep their own culture. But since he loved Greek culture, the, all of these cultures kind of blended together. So Greek and native customs blended. And historians called this blending of Greek culture with these other cultures Hellenistic. So this is when the Hellenistic culture began, this blending of cultures, Greek and then whatever the other culture was. So here is Alexander the Great's empire in 323 BC or BCE. Everything that you see in that lavender purple is Alexander's empire. Can you see now why he is referred to as Alexander the Great? I mean, that is just unbelievable. And again, all those little red bomb sites, those are battle sites. And the red line that you see, that is the route that Alexander and his army took. Please come back and watch this. It will help you understand Alexander's conquest a little better. So after Alexander died, all those generals that fought for Alexander, now they fought for power. They ended up dividing Alexander's empire among themselves. So now we have 3 kingdoms that was once Alexander's empire: Macedonia, Greece, and Syria. Macedonia had the weakest government, and they constantly were having to put down Greek revolts. Syria was also weakened by rebellions. Egypt, especially Alexandria, they're the ones that became a great cultural center. But eventually, all of those empires were taken over by the Romans. And when we get finished with this chapter, that's where we're headed next, is to Rome. So this is the end of lesson 9.3. You're going to view the video on the following slide later. You will not watch this video today. You will watch it later. And then the next time we will pick up with 9.4, Greek achievement.